Hello, everyone. Welcome. This is the Our Turf Football Podcast. I'm Dana. I've got Kate. And then you have down there our good friend Miguel is joining us today. We're super excited. Miguel, I'm going to get to you in 1 second. But first, I want to thank everyone for coming over and watching the show. Tonight, we are going to talk about salary cap. Now, seems like kind of an odd time to talk about salary cap. A lot of times we talk about this like back in March before everything, kicks off with free agency. But salary cap does have a big impact in camp. And so I want to talk to our very good friend Miguel about that. And then after that, we're going to talk about some of the training camp news today. I covered social media today for Our Turf. It was nonstop. All day. News. Wow. Retirements. It was just crazy. So we're going to go over some of that again tonight. But before we get started, this is our official kickoff to this season. So of course we want to thank our sponsor. Donkey's Cheesesteaks has been sponsoring us. This is their 5th season sponsoring us now, and we are so grateful to them. They are one of the most unique cheesesteak places you'll ever find in New Jersey. They have 3 locations, Medford, Mount Holly, and Camden. But you can go to goldbelly.com, type in Donkey's Place Cheesesteaks, pull them right up, and they will send them directly to your home. So please give Donkey's a shout out if you should happen to stop by. All right, everybody. I want to say hi to everyone in chat. We already see everyone kind of popping up. Kristen and Darcy, I'm so excited to see you guys. I've discovered that our time slot has become quite popular with the new podcast this season. So we appreciate you guys hanging out with us. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Miguel Benzan has been a friend of Miguel, you have been on our show probably a handful of times before, yes. But we have been following each other on social media like 10 years, I think now. We have been friends on there. Miguel, for those of you guys who don't know, goes by Patscap. He is a salary cap. I think you're an expert. I'm just going to put it out there. Like, you get it. I don't get the numbers. I also want to say, Miguel, Lisa won't be here to tell you that the cap's not real. So you're safe from that this time.
Okay, I wanted to, because I literally was going to, I don't know how, we don't have that much time, but literally.
No, you're good.
She should be patting herself on the back from what Roger Goodell said.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, patting herself, like, because the owners are upset about how much the other players, the teams are spending, and they want to limit that. And that's because they realize because the next cap doesn't end to 2030, you can use all these void years. And some teams don't want, and you get the Eagles who are always using the void years and spending a lot of money. The Browns always up there and spending a lot of money and using void years. All right. So she should be patting herself on the back because even the owners are getting sick and tired of the void years.
Kate, I think we should be nervous.
She's a Dolphins fan, and they got no cap space. They're about maxed, right?
The problem with the Dolphins is you get older and you get worse. You know what I'm saying? That's a bad combination. Yeah. And you're uncertain about Tua. All right. As a Patriots fan, I'm happy for the demise of the Dolphins. I'm like, just give me just one. Sorry, folks. It is this. We'll talk more about this, but like literally right now, the average team has about $23 million in cap space. All right, and the owners are realizing at the end that they keep on ending each year with more and more unused cap space. All right. That's like, so the owners are really going to think about I have to think about ways of controlling or curbing their spending. Because back in the day, all right, they used to limit how much dead money they had. All right. But not now. Like the 49ers has over like $90 million of dead money, right? With over 34,
Makes
35.
Me
happy. Yeah. With Debo, I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Because when I first started doing that, the cap was itself for the entire team. One team was around $60 million. Now we're talking for one team has $90 million in dead money, which is just incredible.
Right.
All right, sorry.
No. I love it. And this is how these conversations go. And Kate, I want to talk to you just a little bit about this too, because being a Cleveland Brown fan, your team spending money is always a little interesting. But we all have given Miguel a bad time in the past about the cap not being real. Until you come up against the wall of it. And I think the Browns have come up against the wall of it a little bit.
A little bit. I mean,
but it's when I talk to people about the cap, they seem more familiar with the way it works in baseball. And if you spend more, you have a better team. And the teams, like, we get a lot of complaints in Cleveland that we're a small market team. They don't spend any money and they're not any good. When I look at the NFL salary cap, one of the lowest spending teams, or one of the teams that I saw that has the most room this year, is the Lions. And they're playing really well. And teams with no room, like the Dolphins, I worry how they're going to get a quarterback next year. If Tua doesn't work out, looking at this year and next year, they don't have the money to spend on someone. It's like, because they're forced to hit a cap or spend a floor, they're not making wise decisions with that money. So I can see where the owners are complaining, but it's not, to me, it's not how much they're spending. It's how wise, when we go to the grocery store, I got to choose between this and that and what I can afford and which one will feed my family of 6. I'm not buying one steak. I'm buying 6 boxes of mac and cheese, right? Like, they're not making good decisions with their money.
The media has been, especially the Boston media, has been obsessed with the quantity of cash. It's really, they should be focused on the quality of cash spending. All right. Because at the end of the day, no one remembers that the Cleveland Browns have spent the most money in the last X amount of number of years. Mm-hmm. People will remember that the Patriots won 6 Super Bowls. The Chiefs have won 3. The Eagles have won 2 and are favored or up at one league favorites to win go back to back. It is amazing that I've been doing this for 2 decades, and the beat writers still focus on the amount of cash spending as if there'd been a correlation. Like, just because you spend a lot of money, and I'm sorry if there's any Browns fans, all right? If you spend a lot of money, you have not won. No. You spent the most money over the last, it's not even close. And you've not won a thing. The Patriots have won 3 Super, and since the 2011 Super Bowl CBA, the Patriots have won 3 Super Bowls. The Chiefs have won 3 Super Bowls. Both of those teams tend to be in the lower half of cash spending. All right, we've heard of super teams. Like one time teams try to buy a lot of good players in free agency. No one's ever done that and then won the Super Bowl the following year. Okay. The Rams had spent the least amount of money in cash and won the Super Bowl. The next year, they spent the most amount of money in cash and didn't win the Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. The Rams fans remember them winning the Super Bowl. They're not celebrating them spending the most money the following year.
Yeah, with the Browns, I think we all blame it on the Deshaun Watson contract, and that's just one of those things that just makes it more confusing because they restructure it and extend it, and they do all the things. Which is why Lisa says things like there isn't a cap. And I'm like, there is. They just have a lot of creative accounting ways that they can move that money around, just like they were, I don't know, a Wall Street finance guy. Is it just Deshaun, or do you think they're unwise in other places where they've spent that money and haven't won?
They had to get a quarterback. Part of the problem is they think they could spend all this money and not have a good quarterback. They made a decision, and I don't know why. One of these days there'll be a story like why they let Baker Mayfield go. Because literally, Baker Mayfield has been much better in Tampa Bay than in Cleveland. You could have, and why did that happen? Okay, it tells me that the structure around Baker Mayfield in the Browns wasn't supported enough to make him better. Mm-hmm. All right. Is there and then somebody, so Kristen says, is there now we've talked and spent a lot. I mean, the Eagles have spent a lot, all right, in the last several years. They have been willing to spend a lot, use the void years. But I would say this about Howie Roseman, their GM. He makes a mistake. He goes, bam, he's out. He's out on that player. He says, like, I'm
Cuts his
once
losses.
he cuts his losses quick, and
Yeah.
he's out. And they are ingenious, and they take fully advantage of the rules of using option years and using void years. And this is why Roger Goodell spoke what he did at the last league meetings. All right, to go in and have an option year for 2000, for 4 straight years for Jalen Hurts, so his cap number is ridiculously low. All right, for the next several years. I mean, you're betting on him not getting hurt either.
Right.
But it is what the Browns' problem is. Not more just in this. Is this? If it was just Deshaun Watson, then you can't explain how Baker Mayfield got better at Tampa Bay.
Right. There's more to it than that, for sure. Absolutely.
We have system and culture issues in the bill. I don't doubt that at all.
Yeah.
I look at our cap space issues and what we've had, I'm like, it can't just. There have to be more bad contracts than just Deshaun's.
Oh no, there is. The players they hit, like Myles Garrett, all right, and when they hit, they pay those guys well. They play them at the top of the market, all right.
Yeah. Sorry, Dan, I'm going to take up the whole half hour and talk about the
Browns. We can't talk about the Browns for half an hour. We got so much more to talk about.
The Chiefs have won Super Bowls. The Chiefs are doing really well, and they're right in the middle of the pack for this year.
Right. Yes. Well, let's talk about that a little bit. Let's talk about the teams who have the top 5 teams that have the most money going into training camp. But before we get into that,
let's make a distinction between cap space and cash.
Yes.
They're not the same thing.
That's true.
Okay,
true.
It's not the same thing. All right, the top 5 in cap space are interesting enough. The Patriots, the Lions, the 49ers, the Cardinals, and the Packers. The Packers number 5, but that's before we account for Zach Tom's deal. Mm-hmm. They'll probably lose cap space for that, which will put Seahawks at number 5. All right, the reason 3 of those teams are up there is that they carried over so much cap space from 2004 into 2025. All right. The Patriots did that. The Lions did that. And the 49ers all carried over a bunch of cap space. All right. How to say this nicely? The media needs to do a better job of talking about adjusted cap numbers. All right. Okay. They never say out loud or talk about how the Browns or the 49ers, whoever has the most highest, has much more cap power than the teams who have less than that. Like nobody I would bet, I don't know how many people who listen to this know that the Ravens and Bill adjusted cap number is actually lower than the league cap number of $279.2 million because they had more earned not likely being earned incentives hit their cap last year than earned stuff like this. So they had a negative adjustments. So that's why their adjusted cap number is less. That's why the Bills, one of the reasons the Bills have one of the least amount of cap space in the league right now. Plus, they're waiting to do something. I'll first say this. When you look at cap space numbers now, I'll remind people last year, from the time from roster cut downs to after you go to practice squads and all that, and you reach injury settlements and you play an IR and PUP, the average team lost $12 million in cap space from going from the use of the top 51 rule to going to full accounting. Because right now, folks, what I mean by the top 51 rule is that right now we're only counting. There's 90. Average team has about 92 players on their roster, right, with the international exception. I play players on IR and stuff like that. All right. We're only counting 51 salaries now. But when you go to when the regular season starts, you get the 53 players on the active roster. Then you get the salaries of the practice squad players. And you get the salaries of the players in IR, players on PUP, and any players who's on NFI. All right. Mm-hmm. You get all that. All right. And when that happens, all right, the average team last year lost $12 million in cap space.
It's a lot of money.
So like I can tell you right now, I can tell you, bet the house that the Bills will be creating cap space because they're so close to the low. Bet the house the Dolphins will be creating cap space between now and then. The Giants and the Falcons, they will need to create cap space in order to operate through the system throughout the season. Where the teams like the Patriots, the Lions, the 49ers, it's just they don't have to do anything, and they'll still be way under the cap.
Right. Well, I think that's a good segue into my next question, because I got a couple comments and people are like, why are you talking about this now? And I think it's important to understand that point that you just made, all those adjustments that have to be made for all those players toward the end of camp, but also you have to then see how much space you have in case you need to add a good player or something comes up. Why is having that cushion so important during training camp going in? Why is this number so important right now? Because there's a lot of people who are like, "Oh, cap, we're good with cap now. We don't have to worry about it." No, there's a lot more that could come.
Because when you trade for a player before the regular season, you're agreeing to pay his salary for 18 weeks. Yes. All right, as opposed when you're trading for him at the trade deadline, where you're paying for like 9 to 10 weeks. All right, it is imperative for teams to have cushion to be able to acquire players. Like there was some seasons that the Saints fans will like to tell you that the cap doesn't mean anything, all right? But there were some seasons in the middle of the season they could not acquire a top level player because they didn't have the cap space to do so. They used every possible means to create cap space. So in order to acquire a player, they would have to have the other team give the player a signing bonus and then train them to the Saints, which means if you do that, the Saints have to give up more than a team who could afford to take the players on salary as is. So
yeah. So having that cushion is so important. And that's the point. And people wonder sometimes, why certain players are cut. Oh, it was for cap space, but we're under the cap space, but you might not be. And there's so much ebb and flow throughout the season of where that money goes. And I think that's why go ahead.
Sorry. It's like the one reason, like Noah Fant, he got cut. Mm-hmm. Why did he get cut right before the training camp? Because they didn't want the Seahawks did not want to take a chance that he got injured. And if you got injured, you can't cut the guy.
So when you cut them, their salary goes into that dead space, right? And it doesn't count against it. I mean, it's still coming out of the owner's wallet.
No, it counts. I don't move like, see, here's the counting thing. You have an injured reserve list. All right. I have it in my spreadsheet. I have it in the injured reserve list. All right. It still counts against as a cap. It's not, I don't consider dead money. All right. Because dead money is typically used for the term of players who no longer on the team's active roster. All right. But they get everything count. And once the regular season out, everything counts against the cap. Every player counts against the cap. One of the most common questions I get every year is, do practice squad players get counts against? Yes. Do players on injured reserve count against the caps? Yes, they do. All right. Do players on PUP, physically unable to perform, count against the caps? Yes, they do. The interesting is about the people who are on NFI, non-football injury list. Teams are not required to pay them a thing. So you could give them, they could be zero against the cap. Their salary could be zero. But if you pay the player any amount of money, that money counts against the cap.
Okay. All right. So we do have a question. So we talked about this a little bit. This is from Steven. It says, so with that said, who has the healthy cap space? And sorry if you've already answered this question. We talked about the top teams, but to answer the question, what do you consider a healthy cap space to have going into training camp? How much money do you think a team could feel very comfortable with carrying that in?
I was going to say, can we define healthy? Because just because you're in the top five with the most space, it
depends.
So that's an interesting. It's a great question, and he's asking me to pick one team. That means I would have to know the.
Oh no, he said what he said. What are the he said? Who has the healthy cap space? So
I say anybody who's got
healthy.
Yeah, what I consider healthy at this point in time is anybody who's got over $20 million in cap space.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Just going without knowing, I would have to drilling down into who uses active roster bonuses, who's got a player, who's on IR. All right, because as much cap space as I'll say 20 right now. All right. But if you put a lot of players on IR, you're screwed. There goes your cap space like that.
Yep.
All right.
Totally screwed.
Because especially like, for example, I'm a Patriots fan. And in 2015, they were putting players on IR it seemed like every week. Okay.
The Lions last year.
Yeah, and the Lions last year, right? That was taking them cap space. I'm like, that losing because you have to repay the replacement. You're not the guy who got hurt. His cap number doesn't go down, right? But so you got to put on his replacement salary onto your cap. All right.
Yeah. That's
what I worry
exactly
about Tua at the Dolphins. Something happens to him, they don't have enough money to hire a replacement.
right. And that's the whole point of this.
unconscionable.
Yeah. That is the whole point of this conversation going into training camp. If someone gets hurt, that kid for the Lions that just going to be out for the season, Will Levis now out for the season. They have to have that adjustment going into it in order to pay them. And so while we might, look at a team and say, oh, they've got 5 million. They're 5 million over cap. They're over the cap. They're good. That's not always the case. And I think that your example of the Saints is a perfect one where you need the help, but you can't literally afford the help. It is just crazy to me. Now, we are going to have Miguel on again halfway through the season to talk more about where people are at again, because it does matter and going into next year. But Miguel, I want to talk to you. You have mentioned you are a Patriots fan, and I have to admit to you, the Patriots are an intriguing team to me this year. I'm very curious about what you feel about the team, in what direction they're going, and how you feel about your new head coach.
I like Mike Vrabel. I like someone who's candid and honest and who has the experience of being a head coach. All right. I like the direction they're going. The team, if Drake May can improve, if the players around him can improve, all right, we Patriots fans should feel optimistic. I know that they tried to get Chris Godwin to come, but you offered him $30 million a year and he turned it down to stay would stay in Tampa Bay. This is a critical year for them. They need to get to at least to have a winning season so that next year free agent class will be more likely to sign with them. So there's not a repeat of a Chris Godwin situation, turning them down, or a TK Metcalf saying, no, I don't want to, you can't trade me to the Patriots. I'm not going to sign a long-term extension with them. If they improve and the rest of the league sees that Drake May is the real deal, the Patriots will then be able to acquire talent that otherwise would not have gone to them before. And this is, I'm hopeful, but I'm an optimistic person. Okay. I've seen people today say like they're expecting 7 wins. I'm going for at least 9. Hopefully 10, especially with when I go to the game.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. Yeah, I don't like watching them lose. It is what it is. I haven't seen them winning in a while.
Yeah, it does feel like though that they're making smart decisions, and I will tell you, I'm not really up on the Patriots, but it seems to me that there are some smart decisions made. I wouldn't have said that a couple years ago.
Yeah,
I wasn't so sure about the way they were moving, but they seem to kind of right the ship a little bit this year. At least that's my impression from the outside looking in.
Yeah, I think this offseason was better for them than it has been in the past off seasons. They saw a need and they went after it. Just you could say they didn't need that Drake May needs a number 1 wide receiver. They tried. They can't the funny thing about players, they have the right to say no. All right. You can lead a horse to water and you can't make it drink it. All right. So they did what they could. They got Stephon Diggs. Now we hope Stephon Diggs is not on PUP, which is a pleasant surprise. So for those of you who play fantasy football, Stephon Diggs, I've been saying, all right. They should be up there. I see them finishing second, but we'll see what happens. Okay.
That's exciting.
So I would like to address Kristen's question about the wealth of an owner.
Oh, yes, please.
Okay. It does matter how much money an owner has. We can see that with the Bengals, the Colts, and the Raiders in the past. They were limited by how much cash they can spend. This idea, that's why the NFL wants to have more private equity into their teams, because they want to balance out the level field between there's some really rich owners in the NFL, and then you got some cash poor owners in the NFL. I'm not saying that I said cash poor relative to the counterparts, not poor compared to us. Okay, all right. Okay, but it does matter. There's, in my mind, there's no chance that the Bengals, if they had a richer owner, would they be going through all these troubles that they've been going through with these contracts in the past several years? If they had a guy who could, an owner who could spend and didn't care about how much they spent. When Mark Davis, before they moved to Vegas, he was not spending that much money on play. But once he went to Vegas and started getting all that money, you know what I'm saying?
Well, and I think that goes back to what you were saying about getting players to come play for your team. When you have a player, or I'm sorry, an owner that has a lot of money, you can see they invest back in the team. So a video was released today of the Jets' new locker room. The Seahawks got a completely overhaul, that sort of thing. And so I think that is a huge part of that too. Oops, sorry. That's okay.
Old school.
And then I love the ring. And then so that then too is enticing to players coming into the game too. So
yeah, but something else I want to touch on that I think is becoming more important for free agents and your quality players that are looking to get moved to a different team is quarterback play. They don't want to go play somewhere if they're not sure that quarterback's going to be able to do something. This is a huge year. I thought the Mike Vrabel signing was very smart. This is a big year for Drake May because if he can work with Vrabel and have a really good year and show the rest of the league that he's the real deal, it'll make it easier because a player will go for good food in a nice locker room and a good owner. But ultimately now they all want to win. And if you don't have that quarterback position locked and you've got issues, I think Drake is going to be the key to what kind of free agent you can look at next year.
All right.
That's true. All right. So Steven asks on here, let's get that question in here. Which team can you see being better if they had a different owner like that Washington team?
We already said the Bengals.
I already said
maybe not a different owner, but a richer one.
A richer one. A richer owner would the Bengals. A richer
Is Jerry the wrong owner for the Cowboys? If the Cowboys had a different personality at owner, I'm going to ask. I'm a swerve.
No. So
is he the problem?
He's a problem. He's a problem. If that's a great question. If that's the answer to Steven's question. I swear. If I do not know how the Cowboys can keep having so many fans when his philosophy is to wait to the last possible moment to sign players, which costs him cap space, which costs him cash. All right. And they don't even sign a lot of outside free agents.
I know.
He makes a ton of money. All right. But I swear he could do more to make his team better. And I just don't.
Miguel, you know what he could do to make his team better? Shut his mouth.
That is true. That is true. I cannot. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I don't like. He's a billionaire, so they live in a whole different world. But I could not believe what he said about Micah and Dak. I'm like, oh goodness gracious. Just throw those guys under the bus. God.
Senility will do it to you, I'm telling you. All right, Miguel. Well, thank you so much. I want everyone to follow Miguel on Blue Sky is where he's at most of the time now. It's at
all the time.
Yeah, all the time he's over there at Blue Sky at Patscap. Now, the nice thing about it is, yes, he does talk about the Patriots cap a lot, but you also give out full league information about the cap, and I appreciate that so much for you. From you. I think that's just so great.
I will answer any question about the salary cap. It doesn't matter which team you're from. I will spend it as like, I've been doing this for 2 decades, so I have a lot of knowledge. If you want to pick my brain, doesn't matter which team you're a fan of, just be respectful. All right. Okay.
Yes. I love it. I love it so much. All right. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will have you on again later in the season.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. Bye, Miguel. Bye-bye. Love him. I'm telling you, I cannot tell you guys enough. Please go follow him on all social medias. He has left Twitter, as many people have, but he's over on Blue Sky, and he will answer your question. And he answers them in depth. I asked him a question right about free agency time, and it was like paragraphs. It was wonderful. I love him. Love him, love him, love him. He's a dear friend of the show. All right. So Darcy throws out there, anytime you can throw your star pass rusher and quarterback under the bus publicly, right? He's not right there. So let's talk about some of this, Kate. So I want to talk about Monday technically was the first day of training camp. A lot of teams reported today. The rest, everybody, I think everyone will be in by Friday, but the majority of them are tomorrow. But I'm telling you, my fingers were on fire. I was reposting and reposting and reposting. So let's talk first about a couple of retirements.
I was going to say, Kate, is everybody retiring?
Kate,
like what? Are they afraid of getting hurt? What is?
I already thought Phillip Rivers and Jimmy Graham retired. They haven't played yet. Why would I think they weren't retired? I thought they were retired. And that whole video that came out, and I was like, oh, come to find out, just for a little tidbit of news. And we're going to talk about Tyrann Mathieu here in just a minute, because that one deserves a little time. But the season ticket holders, I reposted this. The season ticket holders of the Chargers are in the works of planning or of filing a class action lawsuit against the team, because that Brazil game is their one home game against the Chiefs. And they got like, oh, that's what they promoted it on. Anyway, it was very strange. So they got some stuff going on other than Darth Harbaugh. But the one retirement that was very interesting to me today was Tyrann Mathieu. And he's been playing for 12 years, which is a very nice long career. He's played for the Chiefs. He's played all over the place, last with the Saints, but what a fantastic career. And it was interesting because I don't think anyone really saw that one coming. Although after a 12-year career, you kind of understand it, right? Did that one surprise you, Kate?
It did. Usually, to me, at that position, that's something that comes after like a lot of injuries, and you just like your body can't do it anymore. Mm-hmm. And while he's had a few, I think he is still talented and perfectly capable of playing the game. I think we're starting to see more players, maybe not Phillip Rivers and Jimmy Graham, but we're starting to see more players who are thinking, you know what, I've made a good amount of money. I've made smart decisions with it. Mm-hmm. I don't need to risk the injury and the other things. I think some players stay longer than they should because they don't have a plan B. Mm-hmm. And I can't wait to see what Tyrann Mathieu is going to do next, because I feel like for him to retire like this means he already knows what his next chapter is going to look like. And he's excited to go do that, whether it's coaching or broadcasting or something not even related to football. I feel like he's got something else he wants to do.
Super smart guy. It will be fun to see kind of where he ends up for sure. So there have been quite a few breaking news of people who didn't show up for to camp today. Obviously, Washington wide receiver Terry McLaurin they assumed going to training camp today. He did not report today in looking for a new contract still. Of course, we have the Bengals pass rusher Trey Hendrickson. That one we've been talking about all off season. He posted a picture. He's like, y'all, I'm in Florida. I am not going to camp. I'm not coming. And then the news came out that the Bengals had given him two different options of contracts. Neither one of them had any guarantees past the first year, and that's not what he wanted. And then he said to, I think it was Diana Rossini, that he said, I would even take less if more of it was guaranteed. And so that's very interesting. And that plays right back into what Miguel was talking about that team. I mean, this isn't the first contract with the Bengals. I don't know what that team is doing.
No, we don't either. They don't have depth. They don't have quality depth. And when somebody gets hurt, they don't have replacement money. And to your point, they have the least amount of money guaranteed across their roster of any team in the NFL. And that's probably exactly why they won't do it. And that's where I think maybe they've plateaued. We'll talk about this on the Pick'em show. So I don't want to tell you what I think is going to happen to them this season. But they're not able to get the quality available free agents that other teams can get. They can meet the salary requirement. It's offset language, and it's the guaranteed money that they're just not playing. And that's fine, but we're going to see that on the field. And if you're a Bengals fan, you've got to be losing your mind.
Right. And that plays right back also into what Miguel was saying about you're not going to get free agents to go there. You're not. You're absolutely just not. They're going to start to avoid that team like the plague. A couple other things. We can talk about Jerry a little bit. So as a lot of you know, Jerry shot his mouth off yesterday about Micah Parsons and Dak Prescott. Why go after your quarterback? Like, that was the stupidest thing I have ever heard. Well, they showed up for camp anyway, which kudos to Micah Parsons for going. I think that was very good. And he had a couple little comments. He said that there's been no movement in their contract talks and that he wants to be there. And so he's like basically said, if they want me here, they're going to figure out how to do it. Miguel mentioned Dallas waits till the last minute, but you know what? Another team might swoop in and say, hey, we'll trade you because we'll pay him what he wants to. So that'll be really interesting to see what happens. It always feels like Dallas is right in the middle of all the drama. But then you look at, God love Pete Carroll. Okay, so here's the thing. The Raiders, Pete's just getting the band back together. So he signed Jamal Adams and Philip Dorsett, both who played for the Seahawks before. He'll bring him back in with Geno. He's bringing him back in with everybody. And so the Raiders, I don't know. I would like to think Jamal Adams. I cheered for Jamal Adams. I really wanted him to do well. I don't know. We'll see. We don't know what you're doing there, Pete, but good for you. And then we do have a couple other injury news. So the Bills placed tight end Dawson Knox on non-football injury list today. Obviously, he's a key piece for them. The Giants placed offensive tackle Andrew Thomas on the PUP list. The Bucs placed Chris Godwin and offensive tackle Tristan Wirfs on PUP. That one could really be hurting them down the way. So that one will be interesting. But I think that for the most part, we had a lot of news about a lot of players who were given tryouts. Some were signed. But it was just kind of a busy day in the NFL. What do you expect, Kate? Going into the next couple of weeks, do you feel like there's going to be a lot of trades, a lot of movement, a lot of that sort of thing? Or do you think it'll wait, see what happened injury-wise till the end of training camp? Because I don't know, it feels like there's something boiling, like something big's going to happen, like a big weird trade or something or a cut, but I don't know from where. Yeah,
I feel like there's a lot of paranoia or concern about injuries. And let's just wait. Let's see what we have. Mm-hmm. There are a lot of I've been really looking forward to some of the training camp battles that are going to happen, and people are going to win jobs and people are not going to win jobs. And you're watching to see if any of those teams, like at the quarterback position or at certain key positions where they don't have depth in behind them, what moves they're going to need to make if, God forbid, there's an injury. I feel like injuries this year is a bigger concern. We saw what it did to the Detroit Lions at the end of last year. Mm-hmm. There were a number of teams who just got side railed late in the year. Mm-hmm. And we're seeing more and more of those injuries at training camp because I don't know if the strength and conditioning coaches are not doing their job. The guys seem like they're coming to camp in better shape. Mm-hmm. We're not seeing some of the stuff we've seen in the past with guys coming in out of shape and they haven't worked out. They're looking good. And yet these injuries, these hamstring pulls and these other things that end up turf toe, that end up sidelining them and putting them on the PUP list for 6 weeks. I feel like there's let's get through the first week and see if everyone's healthy. And then maybe next week, okay, you survived the first week. Let's start having conversations about trades and moving people around. Mm-hmm. But I mean, aside from the typical quarterback stuff, you've got teams like Dallas. They're trying to figure out who their running back's going to be. They have 3 running backs who could end up doing that. In Detroit, they're trying to figure out who their center is going to be. Some of these you could be decided by injuries. Mm-hmm. Or just who's left. Quarterbacks, right? Yeah. We're all just looking at the quarterback stuff and who's going to win the starting job. But there are quite a few other things going on at other positions where injuries are very liable to happen as a guy's fighting for a job. You make mistakes in training camp. It happens. All right. So Kristen brought this up, and this is something we forgot to mention with the Bengals. It's like, it's going to be a hard season for the Bengals, even if they do or don't sign Hendrickson or in their first round pick. I didn't even get a chance to talk to Miguel. We're going to have to,
I have a theory about all of these second rounders holding out, which Arizona signed theirs today. I think it's NIL money. It was brought up in another chat that I'm in, and it was like, these kids know what kind of money they can have, and they already have some. So they don't need to figure this out. So then you get into Shamar Stewart, who he has threatened to basically be redrafted next year. And did you know you can do that? So
Yep.
he does not, I didn't know this. So I didn't know that if he doesn't sign and doesn't play, he can go back into the draft next year and be drafted by anyone but Cincinnati. And I'm like, brilliant. That's a bigger than an Eli Manning move. That's huge.
Yeah, he's I believe, the only first rounder who hasn't signed yet.
Yes.
In the second round, Will Johnson and Arizona Cardinals have not gotten their deal done. He's a corner. I know exactly why my Browns have not done a deal with running back Quinshon Judkins, but we'll let legal matters play out and see if that has anything to do with it. And then Tennessee took Oladejo, the edge, and I loved him in college, and they have not come to terms yet. And I find that very bizarre. It's Tennessee. You can't afford to not sign your second round pick. Get it done. It's odd.
Yeah.
That you've got a first and some second rounders that don't have a deal yet. But I think you're absolutely right. In the past, those kids needed to get money. They had been in college. They have no money. They have nothing going on. They're trying to follow the rules so they're eligible, and they want that paycheck. And now they're like, I got money in the bank. My agent says I need to wait for you to get my deal, the deal that I want to get done. And you're right. Somebody did it, and I can't think of who it was that did it. Went to the draft, got drafted, didn't play, and went back. I'm going to have to go look it up.
Oh, I'd never heard of that.
It happened once before. And then we had the legendary Bernie Kosar in Cleveland did not go to the draft and then went to a supplemental draft that was held later because he knew Cleveland was picking early in the supplemental draft and went to that because that's where he went. It was the early 80s. We were a more desirable location.
Yeah.
Those things I find more interesting than the Phillip Rivers, Eli Manning shenanigans. But
yeah, me too.
I'm going to go research it for our next show. And I know there was somebody who did it because I was surprised that was a thing.
Yeah, I didn't know it either. I just saw that today and I was fascinated by it. So, and then we had a couple of interesting little things. The Saints came out with a new jersey today. It is goldish. It's beigey gold. It's an interesting color. I don't hate the color. Like, I kind of like it, but people are like, it's not gold. Well, it is gold adjacent.
Did you see the Steelers' new helmets?
Yeah. Did you see their throwbacks?
Because the bumblebees weren't bad enough.
I love the bumblebees.
Day-glow yellow bullet coming at your head.
So
They've always had black.
I love the bumblebees, but this new one I'm not so sure. And then the Buffalo Bills are bringing back the red helmets for their last season in their current stadium, so that'll be very nice. So some good news there. I was going to say some good news for the NFC West is that Matt Stafford's back's already hurt, but that's mean, and I'm not going to say that out loud again. So there we go. But yes, so I think it's going to be really interesting. I think that there's going to be a lot of fun. I think we're still waiting on a lot of these city rivalry jerseys that are supposedly coming out. I don't know about that. I know that Seattle is slowly switching over to their throwbacks. I think they're going to end up their permanent jerseys here pretty soon, which would be great in most fans' eyes. So that will be great. But I don't know. It'll be interesting. So, all right, everyone. Well, that's our show. We ran a little long this time. I'm so sorry about that. So next week, we are going to be talking about the Hall of Fame. We're going to talk about the Hall of Fame game. We're going to talk because 10 days, people. We get football in 10 days.
The official start of the season.
Kind of football. Yes. I don't know if you really call it that. But we're also going to talk about the 2025 class into the Hall of Fame. So that will be very, very interesting. I think that'll be good. Oh, yes, Darcy, thank you for saying that. I did forget that Washington is bringing back their 80s, 90s look for 3 games. I love those jerseys. I love those. I was thrilled about that. It's going to be very good. But anyway, next it's very, you'll have to go look it up. They're really neat. They're super clean.
Hall of Fame game is next week, Thursday, the 31st. Mm-hmm. It's the Detroit Lions hosting the LA Chargers. We'll have some predictions next week about how many of them will actually start their starters or play their starters.
Not a
Spoiler alert, it's 0.
It's 0. But if you're looking for depth and you're looking for possible, camp cuts, it's a good game to watch. But, and then, so yes, we will be back next week. We're going to talk Hall of Fame. And then the week after that, it's on. It is training camp. It is full time. It is going to be crazy. So we hope that you guys join us. We are here every Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern time, 7 p.m. Central. What?
Do we have any spots left in our fantasy football leagues?
We have one spot left in our fantasy football league. So if anyone is interested, if we have more than one person, then we can maybe split it into 2 leagues. But as of right now, we have one spot left. And you win. Let me just tell you, I pick out one hell of a trophy. You get a great trophy, and it's free.
It is a great trophy.
You get to Stephen, if you want to join, he just said, I want to join. You need to send us a DM on Twitter or Blue Sky, and we will get you in. That's awesome. He's like, I throw my hand up. He volunteers as tribute. So
all I do is win.
That's right. But we have a great time. It is
go up.
It is great for vets. It's great for Wookiees. Apparently there are tons of trash talking going on, but it's all in good fun. And there are people there willing to help you learn, but also they're cutthroat. So it's a lot of fun. So we really hope that you guys enjoy that, because we like doing it every single year. So we will see you guys next Tuesday night for All About the Hall of Fame. Thanks, everybody.